Hi, so welcome back. This will be a much shorter video. I wanted to tell you a little bit about stratification as we're moving into that module, hopefully this week. But a lot of you have not yet started working on the review tests, and a few of you have. So I wanted to instead do a little more kind of housekeeping kind of update. The first thing that I want to say is the one area where we're not really seeing a lot of participation in class is the discussion boards. And that's actually one of your most valuable resources. Right, so the discussion board, you basically get graded simply on participation. So there's not really a lot that I expect, like in terms of really significant work or anything like that. I want you to instead use the discussion board simply as a place to ask questions, make comments or observations about the various materials that you encounter in the other parts of the course. The reason why I say this is I firmly believe that learning is best done in a community. And although this is an online course, often in real sort of face-to-face sittings in a seminar course, we would talk about the different readings and share our ideas and try to come up with a common understanding of how these things are interpreted before we go off and work on assignments related to them. So I would encourage you to open the review test, look at the 5 questions that are in there, and before you start writing them, post at least 1 or 2 of them to the discussion board or see if somebody else has done that and start having conversations. I'm going to try to come in periodically, at least once or twice a day, and check in. I may not respond to every single comment that you post, but I'll try to respond to all of the threads that pop up. And so I'm hoping that you come to an agreement about the readings on your own together with a little bit of guidance from me, rather than me just telling you all the information that you could get out of this course. You'll find that I think you learn a lot more and you'll get more out of the class if you do it together as a group. And that's a good way to start getting ready for some of the assignments that will come up in a couple of weeks, where I'm going to ask you to, as a group, in your small groups, start writing something together and working on a project collectively. So on the 5 major thinkers, 6 if you include Tocqueville, who's really significant in this class, I would like you to talk about them with each other. And the questions that are in the review tests are not merely for you to sort of summarize what they say, but also to think about what those mean or how you would apply them to different contexts. So doing that in the discussion board will be really, really useful to you. As we move out of that set of readings into stratification, you'll see that many of the additional readings for that also come from the same authors from our major thinkers. So for example, we're going to read a different excerpt from Du Bois when it comes to thinking about race, a little bit deeper, a different excerpt from Martineau, one specifically dealing with gender and the role of women in 1830s America, etc. And as well as some contemporary figures. One that I think you'll find very interesting is by a journalist. She's not a trained sociologist or social scientist, but a very popular book about 10 years ago called Nickel and Dimed by a journalist who sort of went undercover, if you will, and tried various different kinds of working class professions and living in that kind of low wage lifestyle for about a year, I believe it was, and then wrote about her experiences and how difficult that was and why. And some things that maybe those of us who haven't lived through those experiences just don't really think about. So stratification is a big part of sociology more generally, but really we're just talking about how society is structured in kind of rank orders. You can think about social classes, upper class, middle class, working class. Then you can think about how gender might be stratified, race, ethnicity, etc. And all of that has something to do with power, and that makes it political. So one thing that I often tell my students is You often hear the expression, well, let's not bring politics into this, or let's not get political when people want to talk about things related to wages, or related to race, or related to gender, or what have you. And what I would say about that is there is nothing more political than telling people not to talk about something. That is one of the sheerest examples of power. The ability to tell you that this topic is political and therefore not open for discussion is the most political thing you could ever say. So keep that in mind. Whenever someone says, let's not bring politics into it, they have brought politics into it. And they're telling you that their political position on the matter is the only one that they want to hear. And they silence you, if you allow yourself to be silenced, then you are essentially agreeing with that expression of power. That's what stratification is about, and sort of, excuse me, exploring how that works in contemporary society, as you'll see in the next few readings. Okay? Please don't hesitate to email me if you have questions, but more importantly, post them in the discussion board. It's been kind of quiet there for a while, and I'd really like to see a lot more interaction between me and between you together as a group. Okay? Check in with you again in a couple days.